And you know what the greatest part? I love the reception early on. It's awesome. I hope we hold on to it. I hope it even improves. Not to be greedy, but I'm just having so much fun with the show. It's such a breath of fresh air just to do and have conversations. It's just natural, organic talking with your friends. I mean, and people responding to that. Yeah, man, I'm very pleased. How do you feel?
I feel great. I mean, I have a really good instinct for what the audience wants, and I suspected that this was going to be a bigger show for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had some non-believers in the company that didn't, everyone I think was behind it, but no one believed. I was like, I think this is going to be pretty sizable for us. And so it is. So thank you for joining us over there. But anyway, this knocks our show knockback to every other week. Constellation goes every week. And so we're returning here to the topic we thought we would never do. But I thought it would be fun to kind of go with a bang because I want us to hit bigger and better topics this year. If we're going to do it half as much. We should redouble our efforts to make sure that they're good topics. And
agreed.
I especially talk, and we'll get right into it here. I especially talk so much shit about Star Wars these days that I feel like it's only fair to go back to where it all began. Something that I think we all unanimously love. I know that there are people out there that don't like Star Wars, but if you like Star Wars, then obviously you like the original Star Wars movies. So I think that there's a lot to celebrate and talk about here. However, I was watching the movie. I've seen this movie, it's like a fucking ungodly amount of times at this point. I don't even know. I mean, I think we've all seen this movie so many times, but
hundreds.
But I was trying to like look in the negative space of all the shots and just think of things to talk about and look at different things and examine different things rewind sometimes. And I made a list of things that I wanted to discuss because they're just random things. We can talk about the characters and Luke and Leia. Sure. I feel like that's kind of boring. I mean, the one thing about this conversation is I take it over to you is that I don't know that there's any nerd property that has been discussed more than this particular movie. And so how do we add to it thoughtfully and interestingly? I think we do it by just talking about random things. So yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably like 12 or 15 things I just wrote down random one lines of things I want to discuss with you that have nothing to do with the main characters necessarily, but some of the scenery, some of the ships, some of the other characters, some of the world building. I think that'll be a good way to go about it. But before we do that, I wanted to kick it over to you because this is a movie of your childhood and your young childhood and a foundational film and experience that I think built you into maybe the nerd that you became. So a very seminal film for you. I was born in 1984, so I was born after the original trilogy was over. I'm coming in later. You're coming in fresh, not too old at the time. I think 4.
Yeah, it was just 4 when I first saw it. Yeah. Yep.
So it's pretty young, and then so 4, 7, and 10 is how you experience the Star Wars movies, which is like a pretty good age to experience many. But
definitely.
Talk to me about what you remember about this, and we can go from there.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is great. I love that we're coming back to 1977 Star Wars last because I don't think we'll be talking about Star Wars again for a while on Knockback I Predict. So it's kind of cool to go back to the origin point. You know, Kyle, as you said before, Star Wars was divisive. Just at the very beginning, the birth of this pop culture and nerd culture legend, in many ways, the granddaddy of nerd culture. I mean, one of the things that put the idea of nerd culture on the map, starting in 1977. You know, at the beginning of this franchise, of course, the film that will spawn this franchise at first for better, and then a lot of us would say then for worse, and then maybe for better again lately. I don't know. That's in the eye of the beholder. But I love going back to this time of, as I call it, the letter P, right? Potential, possibility, promise, purity. Just going back in Star Wars. It's so funny to think back to 1977. I was a freshly minted 4-year-old, right? Star Wars came out in May of 77. To my best recollection, I didn't see it until December, mid-December of 77, when somebody in Dad's firehouse in Brooklyn had it on reels on a projector and was projecting it on the firehouse wall during the annual firehouse Christmas party. And I remember being riveted from that moment. I don't remember specific memories of specific parts of the film, but what I do remember is I always looked forward to that firehouse Christmas party every year because
legendary.
It was legendary in our family. It was like something that we really looked forward to. It was the only time we really got into Brooklyn, East New York, Brownsville, Brooklyn, which is a really kind of a dicey neighborhood, especially back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. And I had a group of friends who were the children of Dad's colleague firefighters that this was really the only time of year, maybe with the exception of the summer barbecue, firehouse barbecue, that I would see these kids. So I really relished the opportunity to play with these kids and see my friends like Matt and some other dudes that I wouldn't see any other time of the year. But I remember that not being important at all this year. I was just transfixed by what was being projected on the wall there, the Star Wars film. And I don't even know how Dad's friends got, maybe they knew a projectionist or something, that they got the reels, they got the projector. I remember the sound being a little bit behind the picture, but it wasn't, and that was weird. It wasn't like watching television, right? But it didn't even matter. Like it just completely zombified by what I was seeing, the action, the characters, Vader, all that kind of stuff. And that's where the love affair with Star Wars started. So funny to think back. At that time, Star Wars quickly became a household name, right? Maybe quicker than any pop culture thing you could even imagine. But at that time, Star Wars really could have went on to be anything. I mean, it could have went over like a lead balloon. We didn't really know at that point, right? It was brand new. Who knew it would be this iconic thing that Disney eventually buys and turns into this multimedia frenzy where, there's a theme park and a channel and it's owned by Disney and TV shows and all these things. But this was the humble beginnings. And I love going back to that time of it was just this one thing before, whether you love Star Wars in the end or don't, and some of the pieces we love and some of the pieces we don't, we argue about it again. It's very divisive. But this beginning represents such purity for me because it's before everything got so saturated, before Star Wars was everywhere and everything. And you just couldn't go 2 feet without running into another Star Wars TV series and stuff. So I just love going back to this period and thinking about what it was back then and what captured our imaginations and, like just everything about it that captured the imaginations of so many millions of people, especially generationally for me, Gen Xers. What spoke to us about this thing? And going in and just looking at it from that perspective is so interesting. I have to say, every time I watch it, and I watch it, I don't even know. I honestly wish I knew the number of times I've seen this movie. It's a lot. I mean, it could be in the multi-hundreds at this point. I have no idea, but it's a lot. But yeah. I always find something new in it, and I always enjoy it to the point of I can't even think of another film that resonates like that. Maybe not even another Star Wars film outside of the original trilogy, which just makes it an interesting conversation. Like you said, it has been done to death, has been talked to death by all the nerd culture, windbaggery out there, us included. Totally. But it'll be. I like your strategy for breaking it down and just going through and talking about it from maybe a different vantage point. That sounds like a good idea to me.
Well, it's just that I think there's obviously a story on mainline. We all know it. We all know Darth Vader. We all know Luke. We all know. I think we can talk about them as they come up. But in watching it and looking in the negative space, I was like, there's so many other things to discuss in this movie that are really interesting. Like I said, production standpoint, characters, world building, all that. So we'll go through some of this list. But one of the things you said here that I thought was interesting was humble beginnings. And I feel like, isn't it interesting that the instinct then, when something became really big, I imagine George Lucas was like, okay, I'm a very savvy dude, owned the rights, made the films with his own money, never borrowed shit. Totally wise, right? And keeping, in return for production rights, keeping the licensing. I mean, this is really savvy, completely brilliant stuff. But even then, his instinct was 3 movies, a couple of TV things, toys, which are huge, and we'll talk about those, and other licensing, your t-shirts and all that. It just seems so quaint maybe you had a holiday record or something. It just didn't say your soundtrack. It just doesn't seem so egregious. Everyone's instinct these days is to be like, what can we do to just murder this thing? And so that you hate it. And with this, it makes me wonder, in watching this movie, I kept going back, like, what if, I don't want anything to happen to George Lucas, of course. What if George Lucas just like died in 1989? Let's even after that, because that was the year that Last Crusade came out. Let's say 1991, George Lucas died. Imagine Star Wars and Indiana Jones, well, Indiana Jones Spielberg too, but especially Star Wars, imagine they were just left alone, much like Back to the Future has been left alone, very intentionally left alone by the people that are like saying like basically over my dead body. Right. Is this ever coming back? And that's such a different instinct. And so I like that you said that because it doesn't seem so humble looking back at it because George Lucas became gratuitously wealthy off of this, but in a way he did it by betting on himself and the core product. You know, famously when they made Empire, he funded it. It's like you know how many people were probably dying to fucking pay to make Empire Strikes Back and do whatever they want. So I like that you brought that word. I'm glad that you said that. And I like that you brought 1977 as well, that December, because if my Kenner history is right, that was the famous or infamous Christmas when you got no toys. Yeah. Instead you got the box with the pictures of the toys on it.
The certificate. Yeah,
which is so funny too because what stopped them from getting those done quicker? That's always been my question. What is stopping you? These are just fairly basic. They're not computer renders. There's no such thing as computer renders. The pictures of those things were the models and the molds that they were using. So I was always so confused by that. Like, where are the toys? But nonetheless, did you get any of that? Do you remember for the Christmas?
No, but Tommy did have that initial set because it came with that like gray plastic standee with the cardboard space backdrop. That was all the really, and the notorious, the tall blue Snapple tooth. That was all part of that package, I believe. And I missed all of that. I must have came in just after that. And again, my best friend Tommy, how did his parents have the insight to get in on the ground floor of all these things? I'm not sure. I really don't know because I don't remember them as nerdy toy collectors themselves. I mean, again, you guys got to remember this is the mid to late 70s.
Isn't there some level of urgency in getting in touch with these people? I mean, I don't know. Like they come up so much. Shouldn't we be talking to them?
It's fascinating.
Like, can we just ask them? Like, what was that all about? First of all, I said before, if Tommy has those unopened G.I. Joes, like all those unopened G.I. Joes, I don't even know what I would do to get my hands on those things.
Can you imagine?
So, but Star Wars stuff is even more valuable, even though it was made so much. And the new Star Wars stuff, like we always say, 1995 on, worthless. But that old stuff, 77, 85, because they kept making new Star Wars toys until 85 under the Power of the Force moniker instead of Return of the Jedi.
That's right.
Where the last like randos were coming out. I think like the torture droid was in there and some random stuff from Jabba's palace. I did want to ask you this quick question, Dave. This is a total aside, although it has to do with toys. It was something I was thinking about before we even get into the matter of the movie itself. Is my instinct correct that your Star Wars toys were kind of off limits to me as a child? I asked this because, and it's neither here nor there, apropos of nothing. I had unfettered access to your G.I. Joes. I don't know if it was just because we got into them together, you introduced me to them. I still remember you got me my first figure, the Lamprey, and all this. I remember it very, very well. But then with Star Wars toys, they felt more like they were really important to you, even as a kid. Like, we don't touch those, we don't go to those. Is there anything to that?
You know what? That's funny. I don't really remember. I do remember you being very drawn, obviously, early on to G.I. Joe specifically. Do you remember if I shared my Transformers with you too?
You showed them to me, but I wasn't really ever interested in them.
You never really.
Same thing with Mask. Like which Mask was on like towards like beginning of my memories, but yeah, Transformers. Weirdly enough, I never vibed with Transformers. I don't know why. I just don't.
Yeah,
I care for them.
Either. Yeah, there's something about that. Yeah, Transformers and Mask specifically came late in my toy collecting. Those are the last things I collected before I gave it up in like whatever the latter half of 6th grade into 7th grade. So those would make sense that I would still kind of keep those and covet those because I was still kind of actively involved in collecting them. The Star Wars thing I don't remember with you. Now I know specifically my Star Wars toys are in Rubbermaid bins in our basement, but my figures over 2 cases, the C-3PO case and an